All right, let's dive into a bit of a detective story. We're on the case of a crime that's happening right out in the open, but it's completely invisible. We're hunting for a secret thief that's lurking in our rivers.
So, picture this. You're looking at a river and it seems totally crystal clear. But the fish are in trouble. They're actually dying. They're suffocating. Now, how on earth is that possible? Well, the answer isn't about what you can see. It's all about what you can't.
To solve this mystery, we have to understand the crime scene. There's an invisible thief at work here, and what it's stealing is the one thing aquatic life can't live without: oxygen. And we're going to use a little science to unmask it.
Okay, so at the very heart of our case is this idea called biochemical oxygen demand, or BOD for short. The easiest way to think about it is like this. Any pollution that gets into a river comes with a price tag, and that price is paid in oxygen. It's literally the oxygen bill that tiny microorganisms have to pay to clean up our mess.
And here's where it gets really bad. When that oxygen bill, the BOD, gets too high, the amount of available oxygen in the water just tanks, it plummets. And for fish and all the other critters in there, well, they can't survive. They literally suffocate. And that is how a river that looks clean can actually be a deadly crime scene.
Now, every good detective story has its usual suspects, right? And this one is no different. So it's time to bring in our first suspect, the one that usually gets all the blame for stealing oxygen from the water.
Meet Carbonaceous BOD, or CBOD. This is our prime suspect. It's the oxygen demand that comes from bacteria breaking down organic stuff. You know, things like sewage or food waste. It's a really fast-acting thief. But take a look at that empty column next to it. Our main suspect? Yeah, he's not working alone. There's an accomplice.
And this, my friends, is where the case gets really interesting. This hidden accomplice is the one that often gets overlooked. It works a lot more slowly, but its impact can be way more dangerous in the long run.
And there it is. Our hidden accomplice is nitrogenous BOD, or NBOD. So its source isn't carbon, it's nitrogen, mostly ammonia from things like fertilizer runoff. And unlike its partner, it's a much slower, more patient thief. It steals oxygen over a longer period of time through a process called nitrification.
So what exactly is nitrification? Well, it's a natural process, but it's a very expensive one for the river. You've got these specialized bacteria that basically see ammonia as an all-you-can-eat buffet. But in order to eat it and turn into something less harmful, they have to breathe a lot. They just suck up a massive amount of oxygen, putting them in direct competition with the fish.
You know, just identifying the culprits is one thing. But to really crack this case, we need to understand the full scale of the crime. We have to figure out just how much of a threat this hidden accomplice, NBOD, really is.
So how do these two thieves work together? Well, their total impact is what we call the ultimate oxygen bill. It's simply the sum of both of their crimes. A river has to pay the oxygen bill for the carbon pollution and the nitrogen pollution. If you're only looking for one of them, you are missing a huge piece of the puzzle.
And don't just take my word for it. The science on this is really clear. This quote kind of says it all, right? The process of breaking down ammonia is so oxygen-hungry that it can cause severe dissolved oxygen depletion. That's the scientific way of saying it's a total catastrophe for everything living in the water.
Okay, now I want you to look at this number, 4.57. It might not look like much, but this right here, this is our smoking gun. This single number shows you just how powerful our hidden thief really is.
So what does it mean? Get this, for every single milligram of ammonia that gets into a river, the ecosystem has to pay an oxygen bill of 4.57 milligrams. That is an absolutely staggering exchange rate. It means that ammonia pollution has an oxygen footprint that is nearly 5 times its own weight. Just incredible.
So, the evidence is pretty overwhelming, but knowing who did it is only half the battle. How do we actually catch and stop this thief? Well, the good news is science has given us the tools. We can totally crack this case.
The way they do it is actually a really clever bit of forensic science. First, scientists run a test to measure the total oxygen bill. They let both thieves go to work. Then they run the test again, but this time they add a special chemical that basically puts handcuffs on those nitrogen-eating bacteria, stopping them in their tracks. So the difference between those two tests? That's your NBOD. The culprit is isolated.
And this isn't just some abstract lab experiment. This exact measurement is what environmental engineers use to design our wastewater treatment plants. By knowing precisely how big the nitrogen problem is, they can build systems to take care of it before that water ever gets back into our rivers. So let's just quickly review our case file. We've unmasked the hidden accomplice, NBOD, and seen how it acts as this long-term oxygen thief. We've learned that ammonia pollution creates this massive oxygen debt. But we've also seen the solution, the scientific tools that let us actually measure and manage this threat, which is how we protect life in our rovers.
So we pulled the mask off an invisible thief today, one that operates on a microscopic level but has these huge consequences. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Now that you know how to look for these kinds of hidden forces, what else might be out there, shaping our world in ways we can't immediately see?